Good morning, everyone. It is super exciting to have you all here, and it's even more exciting for me to see some familiar names in the participants. Welcome to the third talk of the PowerUp series. This is the one that I think I'm most excited about. I think we're going to get some amazing information from this talk. I'm super excited to have you here. Hopefully this is not going to be our last Shopify Meetup series, but it's our first. So fingers crossed that this becomes a success and we can do this again next year. So our aim with the PowerUp series is to help merchants in South Africa just feel a little bit more prepared and ready for Black Friday and Cyber Monday this year, considering that nobody really knows what to expect. So if we can help anyone, it's a win for us. Before we get into everything, I'm just going to go over some basic housekeeping rules. So sorry for those who attended yesterday, you're going to hear this again. So you'll see that your mics are muted and you won't be able to unmute these yourselves. This is just to kind of keep the order and make sure that the speakers are the ones that you hear. If you would like to have your video on, that's completely up to you. But I also understand if you want to have it off, I think it's automatically switched off, but completely up to you. I highly encourage everyone to just send messages, introduce yourselves, and really make use of the chat function throughout the talk today. If you have any questions, I'll be keeping an eye on the chat and I'll take note of these questions and we'll be sure to ask them during the Q&A session afterwards. If you have any other issues, like maybe technical issues, not that I can help, but I can try and help, you can just let me know in the chat function as well. Okay, I think we can get into it. I think that's the biggest information or the most important information that you need to know. So I'm going to let Warrick do the introductions and everything, but I'm super excited to have Warrick leading this talk today. We've worked with Warrick quite a lot over the past few years and I always have the most interesting conversations with him. So he is the perfect guy for the job. So Phaedon, Riaan, Rob and Warrick, can you switch on your cameras and we can get started?
Brilliant. Danny, thank you so much for kicking this off, for hosting this, for putting this together. Big shout out to you, Africa, for putting this together. To Danny, you've made this happen. And of course to Shopify for sponsoring this event. You know, these meetups, I loved going to them last year, attending as many as I could, getting some face-to-face, like meeting the people who are learning what we want to teach them. And now that hasn't happened, but we can do it online. And this is the best that we can do right now. So thank you to you, Africa, for putting this together. And I'm excited for this talk. You know, this is a really cool one, speaking to real life entrepreneurs, real life business owners, to figure out what's happened with them over the past year and what they are lining up coming forward. So I'm really excited to get into this conversation and just want to welcome the panel that we're talking with. We've got Phaedon from Cape Coffee Beans. We've got Rob from the Yellow Brick Company and Riaan from Orbit Rings. And these are some very interesting people that you want to be paying attention to because just like you, they are selling online, but they might just be a few steps ahead of where you are right now. And it's really interesting. I love picking the brains of people who are successfully selling online and crushing it online during COVID, which I think was the topic of this conversation. So, so without further ado, I'd love to pass it over to the panel to just give us a brief history or introduction to themselves and to their business. Let's kick it off with Phaedon.
Hi, thanks, Warrick. Yeah, so I'm the founder of Cape Coffee Beans. Cape Coffee Beans is South Africa's biggest retailer in the specialty coffee space. We sell beans, brewing equipment, accessories, a whole variety of things pertaining to coffee equipment. We started online only as a side project back in 2013. So we've been going almost 7 years now. We still primarily sell online, serving mostly within South Africa, but we do ship internationally and we do have a small store in Claremont, Cape Town as well.
That's amazing. Riaan, over to you.
Thanks, Warrick. Hello, everyone. My name is Riaan. I'm the founder of Orbit Rings. It's basically my side hobby. I'm actually a management consultant and a product manager as well. I've started the business about 2 years ago, seeing and I have a real passion for what online stores can bring you, as in bringing you freedom and flexibility in time and capital in the long run. Orbit Greens focus on the jewelry market, but more specifically on engagement and wedding rings. We started off 2 years ago just selling silicone rings, which were a boom, and then the market crashed about 18 months ago. That was due to every single lady on the street selling silicone rings, which obviously flooded the market, and we were forced to pivot. So we pivoted the company to sell tungsten rings, and since then we have basically the largest tungsten ring variety and colors in South Africa, as far as I know, and we are actually selling now any type of wedding ring and engagement ring. So yeah, the growth has been great from my perspective. I've actually sat in the summit, the U-Africa summit last year, looking at Warrick presenting, and it's just a true testament to how far you can grow in a year if you put all your efforts into it.
That's so awesome to hear. And already you can hear the mix of people, and it's no different with Rob, who's got the retail background. And in fact, let me hand it over to you.
Thanks, Warrick. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. So my name is Rob Greenstein. I've got about 20 years in retail experience, based in brick and mortar. We have the license for the official Lego stores and online platform in South Africa. So if you're living in one of the major cities, we've got stores in Canal Walk, Gateway, Sandton City, and Menlyn Shopping Centre, and the official Lego online platform, which is run through Shopify and our logistics through Africa. Our online started about 2 months after we launched the first store, which was in Sandton in 2018. We launched online early September and have had very good growth. COVID, Black Friday experience. So lots of experience with a wonderful product.
Okay, cool. So we do have a really nice mix of people, pure players who have moved into online, being the Cape Coffee company, Phaedon. We've got Riaan, who is doing this as a side hustle and crushing it, and maybe it will become a full-time focus in the future. But and then of course Rob, who's coming from like an e-com or a retail background, and then just doing really well online also. But the one thing that everybody has in common is that that COVID and all the happenings of 2020 actually positively impacted their business. So I want to ask a question I'm just going to throw it out to there. You guys answer as you like, about how COVID has affected your business. Like, what happened during the hard lockdown? What were you thinking? What was going through your mind? And then as we came out of lockdown, like, what was the impact on your business? Whoever wants to kick it off.
Yeah, I'm happy to go. I mean, it's an interesting one, Jed, between the three of us, because I think Riaan and I will probably side with each other. Whilst we won't get into the politics around why e-commerce was shut down until the 25th of May, for us it was like a champagne cork. I'm sure Phaedon was able to sell as being an essential service during the call it restricted lockdown period with e-commerce. So we thought Black Friday last year was a monster. Black Friday last year was a joke compared to the volumes that we saw happen during COVID and post-COVID. And literally, to use that analogy, it was like a champagne cork for us. We had to deal with logistical issues. We had to deal with demand. And we also had to deal with consumers, who literally half an hour after Minister Patel lifted the restrictions, we started getting those emails. When is my order going to be delivered? So it was a real shock to the system, dealing with all those aspects.
No, I must agree, Robert, and just to jump in there as well, we faced actually great problems because some of our suppliers have already been in lockdown since December. So we had to keep our customers, happy and engaged since December, and that was a very how can I say, a large struggle due to the fact that people in South Africa didn't really know anything about COVID back then. So we had to keep them happy. We did a lot of refunds, obviously. And then by the time in April and May we went into lockdown, it helped us a lot just to say people, okay, understand we are in lockdown. We can do a refund if asked for, but you will receive your shipping. We don't know when, and that helped us a lot. But by the time that the minister opened the gates again, we were about 6 months, well, I would say 4 months behind on our deliveries. And the one lesson that we learned around that was that clients want to be engaged. If you tell them each and every day, listen, we still don't know what's going on, they're happy, but at least you are talking to them. And then the same, we had a huge influx the moment the minister opened the gates for us to deliver. I remember we were actually asking to get our permit to be essential service as well. Now we are delivering rings, but we started selling masks as well. And we basically purchased about 1,000 masks to deliver our rings in a mask, you know. And the very next day, the minister opened eCommerce. So, you know, at the end of the day, you need to try and get ways to work around it. But yeah, since then, the uptake has been quite great. And I think COVID in terms of e-commerce has done us a huge favor just to change everyone's mindset around buying online.
Yeah, I think I can echo a lot of those sentiments as well. I mean, it was a slightly more complicated thing for us because we were operating in what I would call a gray area. So, you know, coffee is obviously food and beverage. So we, after a couple of weeks, realized we probably could sell the coffee. And then there was a lot of lack of clarity around definitions. Can we sell coffee makers? Can we not sell coffee makers? Where we landed on it was that we could sell beans, but not the equipment. And I still won't know, you know, if that was the right decision or not, because I think everybody interpreted the rules differently. But that's what we did for a couple of months. And what was cool is we set our records in terms of actual sales of beans by a long shot. I think volumes tripled, but at the same time, that's lower value, higher logistical cost business. So that was a challenge in and of itself. But after May 25th, as with these gentlemen, we kind of saw a massive uptick. We had a backlog of orders to dispatch. I think May actually wound up being our record revenue month, which if you think about the fact that they only unlocked it at the end of the month is quite something. So it worked well for us. And overall, it's definitely been a boon. More people are making coffee at home because they're going to their cafes less, and we certainly are benefiting from that. But we do also serve commercial clients and cafes, and that part of the industry is obviously suffering. The other challenge that we have is we have big supply issues in terms of most of the equipment that we sell is manufactured in China or Italy. Both of those countries were very hard hit. So there's a kind of hangover in terms of those effects, which we're still grappling with now.
It's so interesting. You know, it's an absolute, you know, luck of the draw that all of us ended up in an industry that was positively benefited by what happened this year. Really, you couldn't have predicted it. Nobody could have. But thank goodness we and everybody listening here today is in the right industry, because there were so few industries that benefited from what's happened through the year. Most industries, as we know, were really kicked hard. So it's thankfully good luck for all of us, and for anybody who's now stepped into e-commerce and looking at this as an opportunity. Well, you're in the right space. And I'm glad to see in the list of participants a few of my students also jumping in on this call. So welcome, guys, and this is going to be really cool. So now we've touched on like what the effect of lockdown was. Another question just to throw out to you guys is to ask, what's happened since then? So the champagne cork popped, and what's happened since then? Did it drop off a cliff, or has it carried on going up, or what's been your experience?
So maybe if we just go in the same order again. I mean, so you know, obviously there was a lot of, I think people are interesting. So what's happened is that during lockdown level 5, 4, and then 3, you know, there's been this nervousness around COVID. I'm gonna step out my front door and I'm gonna get sick. And I think that we've seen that isn't the case. So people were very nervous still to come to the malls. So we've seen it because, as I mentioned earlier, we've got footprints in very large malls in the country. So we've seen that people, yes, they've hesitated to come to the mall. People got very used to using online. People who've never shopped online before are more than happy now to take up from 60/60, buy their coffee beans online, buy their kids' birthday presents, buy their engagement rings. Whereas I'm sure Riaan will agree, historically, you know, people would want to go out and see an engagement ring. Now they trust the courier services, they trust the websites, they trust the payment gateways. So whilst we saw, and I'm sure the other guys will agree with me, you know, end of May, I think the turnover we did in the last 5 days of May was equitable to the whole of November, including Black Friday. You know, we've seen massive double-digit, triple-digit growth in online, but at the same time, you've seen the shops pick up a little bit of traffic. So June, record month. July, record month, record growth. August, record month. It's interesting now, September and October, it's starting to stabilize a little bit. Maybe that's Black Friday coming up on us and people are holding back for those specials, and we'll talk a lot more about Black Friday and Cyber Monday strategies, I'm sure, in this conversation. But we're noticing definitely a slight tapering off in October of the massive demand. Maybe there's a bit of demand that's been filled and a bit of pent-up revenge buying that's happened over those beginning months. So we need to wait and see. But the bottom line is as South Africans, we are getting more and more used to online. I used to say, up until literally 6 months ago, that I felt as a South African retail consumer, a South African person is actually quite an immature consumer. If you compare us to the Europeans or to the States, we've never been that trusting of payment gateways. We haven't been that trusting of giving a website our card details because we don't know what they're going to do with it. In a South African context, people are getting now more used to that. And I think that, like I say, for us, Black Friday last year was a big event. We did our Black Friday numbers day in, day out, I think, for the first 2-3 weeks that we opened from the 25th of May. I'm excited, yet a little bit scared for the volumes that are going to hit us at the end of November.
No, 100%, Robert, and I definitely echo that. I think in terms of COVID and the impact, we did last year in Black Friday, we did a certain amount in one day. And since opening to lockdown level 3 and e-commerce can sell again, we basically have been doing what we did in Black Friday last year per day. So it's a massive jump. But I echo the drop in sales as well since October. We've had growth, I would say about 15 to as much as 30% month to month since May. And then since October, we've had a drop of around about 15% since last month, which is great. But I think the one thing that my wife is working for the business as well, and one thing that we grapple with is consumer behavior. And I've never realized that the behavior of so many people as a consumer is so fragile. We will see it with our website, you know, on a rainy day, we won't see any sales sometimes. And then suddenly the next day, we've got a huge uptake. And it's as if people just decide collectively, okay, they're all going to buy on a Monday or on a Saturday or whatever. And I've after 2 years, I haven't been able to crack the behavior behind the consumer. And it's very interesting. So yeah, that's from our point where we are at this point, also ramping up for Black Friday, but I think it is really going to be an interesting new one this year. Seeing that so many people have tried online this year due to COVID. So I think it's going to be a cracker of a month, I would assume.
Absolutely. Phaedon, what's your insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think you were originally asking about kind of what the challenges are coming out of the lockdown, right? And I think that for us, maybe in a bigger way than Riaan and Rob, based on what I've heard, is that stock availability became an issue very quickly after May for us, particularly around espresso machinery, which obviously is high value items. We rely on local importers, and China and Italy hadn't dispatched anything basically at all this calendar year. So, and that's something that, you know, I imagine is going to hit all industries at some point, but that has been a really big challenge for us. And then grappling with ideas like, do we air freight things in that are very expensive to air freight in, or do we wait for the sea freight? So the after effects have been positive for us. Certainly we're ahead of where I would have hoped to be this year, and that's a very fortunate place to be. But at the same time, I think that the potential was very much capped by the availability of stock, and that's a more difficult challenge to tackle, and one that probably is going to affect us over Black Friday potentially as well.
Yeah, it's these lessons that we have to learn. Like, we're learning it all the hard way. We're having to fast track our own learning curve. But you know, Rob, you touched on something really interesting about how people are now starting to trust online shopping, and consumer behavior has really shifted to embrace online shopping before. And it's done the e-commerce industry a lot of favors in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, e-commerce isn't really that old. I mean, it only started in 1990s, and in the early 2000s, and even when I started selling online 2010, like, there weren't too many people shopping online. But if you look at the growth of e-commerce and how far it's come, based on the fact that there wasn't too much trust with online payments. Logistics didn't really work. I mean, Africa's done a fantastic job in turning that around. The e-commerce platforms were really hard to work with, and everything was really difficult. But with all of that still being challenging and difficult, e-commerce has still been growing at a remarkable rate. And now the growth has just kind of taken a step change and it's going to continue in that direction. But with that also, as it's becoming easier and more popular, it's going to bring in a lot of competition, which is a really interesting dynamic. So I think that's something that we can think about when we talk about Black Friday in a moment. But what the question I wanted to throw out to you guys right now was, looking at Black Friday historically, like what has that meant for you guys? How have you seen it impacting your business? And what were some of your strategies that you had done previously? Now this year is going to be a different ballgame, but previously, what approaches have you had?
So I think Black Friday is such an interesting debate because Black Friday isn't a new thing. I mean, Warrick, how long has it been around in the States? Decades. It's
since 1974,
yeah,
but
okay,
it wasn't online back then.
Yeah. So now look at it in a South African context, and let's not even look at online. If I think about Black Friday, I can tell you that 5-6 years ago, were the first time that in my stores, in my other retail side of things, suppliers started saying, "What about Black Friday coming to South Africa?" Black Friday was not a topic here. Black Friday only started here about 5-6 years ago, and people were then deciding, don't I get involved? And we immediately said, you get involved. When there's a new retail trend like that, it's you have to get involved. Now Black Friday feels like it's been around forever, and that it's just a common name. But like I say, from a South African context, it's a very, very new topic. Yeah, I mean, I think historically, again, people have looked at it as a massive discounting period. So you've got to compete with the nationals. There's also the likes of the nationals that will go on sale for a week or two before, pre-Black Friday, post-Black Friday, post-Cyber Monday. And I think that what we've got to do as smaller retailers is, for me, you've got to look at a niche in terms of where you can compete. And I think it's important not to dilute your offering so that your offering is impactful, it's punchy, and it hits on that weekend. I don't think Black Friday needs to only be the Friday. I think it can be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because people are busy. Not everyone can get out of their office. Not everyone can get away from their Zoom calls and just get into a shopping center or into a physical space. And I know we're talking online here, so I'll come to that. I think that in an online spectrum, you need to stand out. So, I mean, I'll talk from a Lego perspective. What do we do that's different? We need to make sure that it's not just about discount, because discount just erodes your margin. So, and whilst people have this view that retailers make ridiculous margins, they don't. I don't care if Riaan's selling rings, Phaedon's selling coffee, or Rob's selling Lego. The margins are tight. And when you take into account the logistics costs, it's not just an easy way to make money. And I'm sure a lot of the other people listening in will identify with this. There's lots of hidden costs that they've got to take up with. So for us, from a Lego perspective, we target a couple of things. We'll target certain releases that will come out on Black Friday that haven't been available before. So sets or something. Maybe in a different business unit, think carefully about what you can offer that you haven't offered previously. We think about gifts with purchase, because again, there's a value add there. Maybe it's a bundle. Maybe it's, again, something you've thrown in with something else to show better value. And then maybe you've got a loyalty program. So we do use our loyalty program quite actively. We've done this historically, where we add more value through our loyalty program. And I think when you start coupling together maybe a few offers, and again, this is from a Lego perspective, we try and show our consumers, hey, shop on this day and you're going to get something more. Not, you're just going to get less 20%. Because personally, I just think that erodes your margin, it dilutes your business, and people then learn next year, I'm just going to wait for Black Friday. So we don't want it to be that we erode our business for next year's October or next year's November because of this year's Black Friday.
I agree, Robert. From our perspective in the arena industry, I'm sure you're as well, we monitor the analytics in the background from Shopify closely each and every day. So I really guess it's up to your own analytics to show you where you need to drive the behavior for people to where discount might be worth your while. So we've seen the first 10 days of every month is high in volume, and then it tapers down until the 20th when people are receiving salaries again, and then it goes up again. So we have tested and tried to run specials between the 10th and the 20th just to even out that volume. And it has been successfully, but I think there's a lot of white papers around that you need to be careful of when and how you run discounts and specials, especially in light of the margins. For us, for the past 2 years, I've always felt that I don't want to market our specials for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, due to the fact that people then hold on their sales, they will hold on to make the sale, and it will have a negative effect on our volumes building up to the weekend. And then that massive volume weekend will have a great uptake and it will look impressive, but if you even out everything on the net effect of sales for that month, it will come back to the previous month almost. So for us, our strategy is the day before Black Friday, we will release our specials and our discounts and offerings, and it will run for the entire weekend up until the Monday, which is Cyber Monday now as well. And that's been working for us to just get more volume over and above what we expected for that weekend. And I think that's what Black Friday and Cyber Monday should be. It shouldn't be this massive volume and the rest of the month you don't have any. It should be over and above, and your offering should basically give that opportunity to your customer base. From our perspective, we have challenges always with people having the correct ring size. So generally, our consumers are happy with the lead time and obviously the perfect exchange policy. And we have seen in the past over Cyber Monday or Black Friday that we generally take a little bit longer to fulfill our orders, but we do communicate that with the customers making the purchase. And then also one of our strategies is to have any inventory that we haven't had great sales on, to have big specials on that, to tell people or our customers, listen, you can buy this rings in stock for a 30 or 40% discount. And people are so eager to buy over that weekend. We generally see good sales on that as well.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that these guys have said. I think the only thing that I would add, particularly for anybody who's relatively new at this, is that you need to be careful about thinking of Black Friday as a good time to acquire customers. I think that this is one of the confusions that arises, is that you obviously want to cash in on Black Friday as much as you can, but I think that some people see massive discounts as a way to acquire customers, and I would say that Black Friday is the most expensive time of the year to acquire new customers because everybody's competing for attention. So really, a lot of the work for a successful Black Friday is the other 364 days of the year, when you build up your mailing list, you build up your social media followings, you win customers who know you and your brand, because then you have a much smaller hurdle to get over to get them to spend with you. So really, you know, it's like a successful Black Friday is about having an existing customer base, I think. If you're relying on Black Friday deals to acquire customers, I'm sure you can do that, but I don't know if that's going to be very profitable business. So I think that that's one important thing to remember. Who are you going to market to on Black Friday? Particularly if you're pure play online, I think that becomes very important because everybody's vying for attention. And I think that that's generally been my strategy with Black Friday. I don't want to get away with too much discounting, much the same as what Rob and Riaan have said. And I think that it's really about attention grabbing more than it is about discounting, is that people are going to be spending money that weekend. They've been waiting to spend that money for weeks, and it's just a question of how are you going to have them look at your site, your store, your products. And my view on that is a couple of well-selected discounts. You know, you should have things that are attractive, that are going to make people come and explore, because very likely they will buy other things with those purchases if they're structured correctly. You want to shoot for things like bigger basket size. And I would say that if you're going to do discounting, you should look if you can partner with your suppliers on it. There's no reason for the retailer to necessarily take the full hit in terms of the discounting. A lot of times we approach our suppliers, we say, right, what stock do you have that you need to move? Can we get a discount on that we can pass on to consumers? But I really would think of it as like, how do you get their attention, not how do you offer a discount which is going to make them start buying from you. The only other thing I would say is that because it is about attention, I think having a little bit of fun with it and doing something a little bit different isn't a bad idea. I don't think that you have to go crazy, but one of the angles that we run every year, which coffee drinkers find amusing, is we refer to it as Drink It Black Friday, and we get people to post photos of black coffee. And it's just not making it all about what discount are you going to get, right? Because really what you want is eyeballs. People are going to spend money if they're looking at your website. So I think finding some kind of different angle is quite a useful thing to do around Black Friday as well.
Can I just repeat something that Phaedon said there, because I think Phaedon has absolutely hit the nail on the head. And I think out of, if I can say respectfully, Riaan, I think out of the three of us, he said the most intelligent thing. And that is that this is not about acquiring new customers. And you're going to be marketing to your existing base. and you're going to be using your email lists because, again, as an online business, in any retail business, the most valuable thing is your customer. We all know that cliche. As a retail business online, you're able to have your customers. So what Phaedon said is exactly true. You're going to use your email list. Now, we've got an enormous email list. If you go, and I'm going to use Phaedon's business as an example, Phaedon's got some pretty pricey coffee machines on his website. You go and discount one of those things at less 20%, and then you're back to Tuesday after Black Friday, and you get your customer who comes online and says, but last week you were marketing less 20%. It's a commoditized item. It hasn't changed. Why can't I have it at that price? It's different when it's a limited something. You can only get it for that period. So the advice I can give out there is you need to think carefully about your assortment. Yes, obviously, if you've got stock that's old and it's retiring or you want to clear it, fine, and that's why you're marking it down. But be very cautious to take your prime stock and think that you're going to gain customers or gain attention by giving it away, because you're going to lose your credibility for later. And it's a little bit of the point I was making, but I just think the way that Phaedon worded it was exactly that. So it's not about acquiring new customers. You've got your educated customers on your mailing list. Make sure that you're giving them the right message about who you are and the way you market your business. And that's why, I mean, I think we've all said something similar about the discounting.
Just some advice there for the merchants is we don't give a blanket discount on all our products per se. We will not market and say, you can get a 20% discount if you make a purchase on Black Friday. We will say you'll get a discount if you purchase over and above a certain amount. And that is where you need to go and work out what is your average order value, what is your net profit margin, what is your expenses, and then actually entice people to spend more than they should to enable the discount. And that's just, I think, the basics where you need to start off with if you think about specials.
Yeah, and don't underestimate a coupon that you're going to give in later, because remember, the international standard is you give a coupon, argument's sake, 100 Rand, the uptake on it is more than likely 140 to 180 Rand spend. So there's also value there from what Riaan's saying is, you know, spend X, get a coupon of Y, you bring that in, you tie it back to your basic cost, and you're hoping for an upside spend.
Brilliant. And I think the common thread in this round of conversations is really just emphasizing this is not a time to lose money, because a lot of people make a loss at the sake of acquiring customers, or they just do some amazing deals and they don't really monitor their numbers closely enough, and turnover without profit is just vanity. So you do an amazing revenue, and at the next monthly meeting with your accountant, they look at you and they shake their head and say, you didn't make any money. So you went through all of that effort and you didn't make any cash. So this is not a time to just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff.
That said, you could adopt a strategy like Massmart do. The reason why Game will get queues outside their physical doors is because they'll advertise in the newspaper that the first 30 people through the door are going to get a television for 1,000 Rand. You can adopt the same strategy. I mean, yes, we aren't Massmart, and we aren't necessarily going to have 5,000 people in our Shopify queue, but you could say, listen, I've got these five SKUs. They're old. I'm willing to write them off at the right price. We know someone's going to queue to get them. You could say for the first people that spend more than X, you get this for free. So there's other ways to do it, and you're clearing that stock. So, I mean, there's arguments for both.
Yeah, and of course, Riaan touched on this also. You could have loss leaders with products that it's old inventory, stuff that's sitting at the back of your stock room, gathering dust. It's probably not going to sell. Maybe it's outdated. Use that to get people into your site. Put that on your discounts page. Use this period to turn that pile of inventory into a pile of money so that you can pump that back into your business. So definitely.
And dead stock doesn't help anyone. So if you can turn that dead stock back into some capital that you can reintroduce into your business, it's a wise move.
Yeah, absolutely. So where I want to go quickly is just to talk about the history of Black Friday and where it's come about. Now, I'm not going to go back to 1974 and where it really came from. But just in terms of South African perspective, like I think 2014 was the first time that I heard the whispers of Black Friday. And, you know, we looked at this and we're like, oh, well, it's an opportunity to do a sale. So let's do a sale. Then the next year, customers were looking forward to this, and we needed to put on a bigger show. And we put on a heck of a show. We did a ton of revenue. I think we did close to R1 million just on that Friday. But what happened was my team was running around like headless chickens. We were there till 2 a.m. the next morning, packaging orders. Of course, we missed the courier, so our customers were upset. And it was a complete mess up. Like, we learned so much from that. And we've changed our tactics and our strategies since then. And I don't want to share too much because I want to ask your guys' opinion on this. But the game has changed. And this year, one of the biggest impacts of the game changing is the fact that big retailers have had a pretty tough year. And I know for a fact that that a lot of brick and mortar retailers are looking at online as something that they need to be leaning into much more aggressively this year. I mean, heck, who knows if there is going to be a COVID resurgence, there could be a lockdown and shops aren't even open. Or if there isn't one, is it reasonably acceptable and responsible for shops to have queues of people stampeding into their shop to fight over that 1,000 Rand television? I don't think it is. Maybe that's just me. But regardless of all of those insights, big retailers are coming into e-commerce more aggressively. So earlier I spoke about how e-commerce has become easier, and that's attracting more competition, more startup online stores. Then we have the big retailers who are also vying for our attention. Phaedon spoke about this. How do you vie for people's attention? So now, as we look forward to Black Friday 2020, it's a completely different kettle of fish. And what's been nice on this discussion so far is that everybody's been agreeing with each other quite nicely, or reiterating very similar points. And I think there might be some disagreements on this topic about how you're going to be executing Black Friday 2020. So Rob, I know we had a bit of a chat before this talk began. So I want to pass this to you quickly, for you first, to ask what's your approach going to be, and especially around the time frame. Like, is it just Friday? Is it Friday, Saturday, Monday? What are you going to be doing?
So I think for me, I like the Friday to Sunday, and then I like the Cyber Monday offer. I think by the time it's the Sunday, even if you're not participating in Cyber Monday, I think that by the time you go past the Sunday, the offer starts to lose its gloss. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I thought it was only Black Friday, and then next year, again, I go down to this. People remember. They think, I'll worry about it next week Wednesday. I'm not going to worry about it now. I'm going to wait for the queues. I'm going to wait till they get the logistics right. I don't want to have to wait a week, whatever it might be. So I think whatever you do needs to be quite punchy. I mean, again, let me go back to a Lego context, because I can only speak for my business. You know, the beauty, what Lego has done internationally, and they actually did this last year for the first time, is they cottoned on as well to what I was saying earlier, to try and avoid the discount only. So last year, for those of us children of the 70s will remember the Tim Burton movie from 1989 with Michael Keaton acting as Batman. They released a limited Batman set that launched on Black Friday. And that created demand for a particular Lego set. And I suspect the same will happen this year with a different set. So you've got the Lego collectors out there that will be waiting to see what that set is. And then combined with that, we need to think quite creatively about what's special, or how are we going to entice them on that day to buy that set because it's launching. So last year was quite nice. We had a specific Lego gift with purchase that was unique to that set. So if you bought that set, you got the other set for free. And it was all kind of calculated into the business model around offering that. So, you know, one has to think about that in your context. You have to think about that, and I'll talk to Riaan and to Phaedon. I mean, you need to think about, do I put together a coffee blend that is specific for Black Friday, that I can only get a limited edition coffee blend, and it's released on that weekend, and I get something else special with it? Do I buy a new coffee machine, and do I get, you know, that coffee blend thrown in? I don't know the coffee business, but I'm trying not to only talk about the toy business. So you need to think about the unique of what you can offer. And I think, to agree with you, people are not going to want to go and stand in queues, Warrick. So we are going to be expecting to see people looking for those specials, and be looking to take them up online. Fortunately, we're with a very good platform, so I'm not looking to punch Shopify. I don't get any money, you know, I don't do that, but Shopify historically is a very strong platform. Take a lot, maybe should have thought about that a few years ago. And the one thing I did want to say when you were talking is, customers are also aware that they need to wait. So going back to Riaan's first point in the very first question you asked, is communication's key. So whatever communication you're going to start offering in your promos, start putting a subliminal message there about your logistics and what the time frame around your logistics are. Because it's fair to expect to place your order on Friday and get your order on Monday or Tuesday. And so I would also build that into your messaging.
Cool. Riaan.
So from our side, in the past and this year as well, we've actually limited our orders. So for argument's sake, we will market and say the first 100 orders will receive a 20 or 30% discount. if you spend more than, let's say, for argument's sake, 500 Rand. That's been helping us a lot, and we will entrench that message with an update on the amount that's left over the weekend. So by Saturday, we'll say, crazy, there's only 20 left, and by Sunday, there's only 10 left, you know. That just creates urgency, and what we have found is Friday is quite big for us, but Cyber Monday is actually bigger. The reason for this is everyone on social media sees Black Friday, and it creates that fear of missing out, and people tend to find themselves at a spot on Sunday evening that they want to buy something for special as well, even if they don't need it. So Monday generally is quite a big one for us, so we prepare for that, Cyber Monday. And yes, we've seen in the past that if you communicate with your customers quite well during this process, you can benefit a lot from Black Friday and Cyber Monday. At the end of the day, I think for any online store, people don't go to your website anymore to buy a product for a special per se. They go to find the experience. Doesn't matter if you're selling coffee or Legos or rings, they buy into the experience and the promise of the benefits that you can show to them and reflect to them. Now, post-COVID, every single other business is online. And I'm sure that both of you will attest to that fact as well, is that to have a great experience and to build a best platform and to have your online store there isn't nearly enough. The amount of effort that you and expenditure that you need to spend into Facebook and Google and so forth for advertising is enormous. And that's just to get your value proposition to your correct niche. So taking all of that into consideration, I think it's more and more vital to be sure to explain your benefits and your experience to the Black Friday audience, to make sure that you distinguish yourself between all the other offerings. If you look at it, One Day Only is a good example. That platform is actually running Black Friday specials each and every day. But I find myself on that platform each and every day, and I don't really find anything that I want to purchase because there's no product that resonates with me to make the spend worth my time. So it's actually absolutely crucial to go back to the drawing board for the merchants on your product offering, and then start building from there.
Awesome. And before heading over to Phaedon, Riaan, what's your time frame for Black Friday going to be? Are you just doing the weekend, or are you expanding it out?
No, I must say, we as e-commerce and merchant online store enthusiasts need to protect the community. And I feel if we're going to start extending, look, Black Friday we already extended from the one day to the Saturday to the Sunday and now the Monday. If we're going to start expanding it to a week before and a week after, or the whole month, eventually we're just going to cannibalize the whole concept behind Black Friday. And I feel it's going to be a bubble that's going to burst in the end of the day. And then, you know, what's the point? So I think we as merchants need to keep ourselves honest and, you know, keep it what it is. I think Black Friday and Cyber Monday, the whole weekend, is probably the best approach to protect that. But that's just my input, you know. I'm not sure how the rest feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to offer you the disagreement you might have been hoping for, Warrick, but I also think that we run our specials generally the Friday through the Monday, so 4 days from Friday morning to Monday evening. We don't do different deals on Monday, and just the one additional bit of color I'd add there is that we only do one set of deals and they're the same the whole weekend. And the reason that I think that makes sense is, particularly in our market, I don't know if these purchases are fully impulsive. I mean, certainly if you're asking somebody to buy a 20,000 Rand espresso machine, I don't know if they're going to make that decision on the same day. And so for that reason, I like to kind of put everything out there and also reassure the customer there is no new deal coming on Monday that you should wait and see about, because I actually feel that indecision is probably your enemy here. So put it all out there, be very clear about how long it's lasting, but I would also agree any longer than Monday is probably unnecessary.
Okay, cool. Well, you know, what's a panel discussion without a little bit of disagreement?
You have to do it here, Warrick.
Yeah, cool. You know, for me, like, I've always seen Black Friday as being this really amazing thing that happened to e-commerce, which we couldn't have planned it any better, because when you think about Christmas, like if you have a toy store leading into Christmas, oh my goodness, that must be amazing. But when you're looking at online sales, and this has been my experience, is that each year you go through to Christmas and you do a whole bunch of promotions, and come 1st of December, people start to buy their Christmas gifts, and it's really fun, it's really amazing, and you see your sales going up, 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 and then the 15th or the 16th, when there's a public holiday, well, people go on holiday and they leave, and then they don't really think about buying their gifts online, or maybe they don't trust that the courier is going to deliver it in time. So before 2014, Christmas was like this thing where we put a whole bunch of effort into, and we saw 2 weeks of sales, and then after the 16th, there was a little bit, but not too much. Then Black Friday happened, and it was like this crazy thing where we kind of just moved Christmas a month early, where from a retail point of view, and the online sellers could really capitalize on that. And it was really exciting to see that. But now what's happened is that it's become really competitive. It's become really, really noisy. And whether we like it or not, other retailers are expanding their deals out beyond the Friday, beyond the weekend, beyond just the week. Now, I know Macro and Game have already publicly announced that they will be doing deals from November 1st. And while that is a bit disruptive for the market, what they're trying to do is move themselves out of that noise and that competition. And what I liked about their press release, they were very particular with their wording. They stated that each week they're going to be releasing a set of deals, and those deals will not be available later. So no indecision, no delaying. And what they've done very cleverly is they've said to the customer, like, get this deal now, or you might not get it again, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen Black Friday. So for my students, I've been advising a lot to spread those deals out. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that happens. Like for me, my experience was when we went from one day to a weekend to a week, it spread the noise, it spread the confusion in the market, and we were able to capture more sales while being more readily available to give customer support, to pick up the phone, to respond to emails, and that helped us to get even more sales. So my experience is, heck, like, yes, I completely agree with Riaan about protecting the integrity of Black Friday, but there's also this thing, like, everybody else is doing it. So the Friday itself is going to be the most competitive, the most expensive advertising. So why not spread it out a little bit?
Yes.
What do you guys think?
Okay, so you might get your disagreement here now, if you want to call it a slight disagreement. We are not mass mart. So my sense would be, and I don't know, other than my parents who are listening in on this webinar, too many other people on the webinar. So, you know, I think that my expectation over here to the audience and to your students and to the type of clientele that UAfrica are dealing with, that we are smaller retailers. So I think if you want to try and compete with mass mart or that kind of retailer, I think you're stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson. And I think the thing that differentiates us is that we should be giving a slightly more niche service, and your offering should be more tailored and will be more tailored to your type of clientele. Now, you're talking to 3 people here who've got 3 niche businesses that are not trying to sell a Samsung television at 1,000 Rand that should be sitting at 10,000 Rand. It's a different type of, in my business, it's a different type of consumer. Yes, I suppose we could have the consumer that wants to spend 2,000 Rand on Lego City and Lego Friends because they've got a little boy and a little girl and that's their Christmas shopping. I think if they're that price conscious, to be honest, they're going to be hunting across the board. And I don't know if that's exactly the consumer that I'm going to be attracting on Black Friday. I put this to Phaedon and to Riaan as well, what they think. I think that someone who's been eyeballing Riaan's site for an engagement ring, hoping for a little bit of value-added special, that's not a mass mart customer. So I can't speak for all the other people listening in here, but my sense is of your 3 panelists that are here, I'm not worried about mass mart. I'm not worried about those queues. It's not my consumer. And in my physical brick and mortar stores, it's also probably not the consumer that I'm competing for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely think that there's a massive difference between small niche and mass market kind of advertising. Though I do think that there, you know, you can take a page out of their playbook, but try a slightly different tact. I mean, so certainly running different unrelated, you know, not related to Black Friday promotions early in November. I mean, we've sometimes done that, nothing to do with Black Friday, but just do an interesting deal at the beginning of November, because otherwise the beginning of November is super quiet. I also think that you can drum up a lot of attention early in November without it being deal related yet. I noticed that Danny asked something about what would you say to people doing Black Friday for the first time who maybe don't have a big customer base. Well, I would say
see if you can build your list before people are advertising Black Friday deals. Maybe put something out there like, sign up to our newsletter now and you'll get exclusive access to a deal on the Black Friday weekend that nobody else is going to see. You know, now early in November, end of October is a much less expensive time to do that kind of marketing. And so maybe the big guys are going to be leading with deals from November 1st. I don't know if the small niche guys should be doing that, but that doesn't mean that you can't be leading with different kinds of marketing that are going to help build that list that are going to bring those buyers later on. And then just to touch on something that you said as well, Warrick, about Christmas. So I have to admit that challenge of sales dropping out after the 15th is something I thought about a lot after our first couple of years of operation. And I would say that that's actually one where there's a lot of opportunity to improve on that and build out. Like, think about after Black Friday, because after Black Friday, people aren't expecting deals anymore, but they're still looking to spend money. And even better, they're looking to spend money on people other than themselves. And sometimes that means that it's not as discount related. So making sure that you're teed up and ready to operate really well for the Christmas period, I think may have as much, if not more value. You don't get that one day spike that's very exciting, but you can make good margin and good sales. And I think that the strategy around that is making sure you have enough stock, making sure that your logistics are sharp, and making sure that you do a lot of that proactive communication about the fact that, hey, you still can order and get your order on time. Or if you can't get a shipped one, how about buying a gift voucher? How about coming to the store? There's a lot that can be done after the Black Friday period. And I do think that there's a little bit of evidence that sometimes people give up a little bit after Black Friday and just let it kind of coast through the end of the year. And I do think that there's more opportunity there, and it's not necessarily all about that Black Friday weekend.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So yeah, absolutely. And what I quickly want to do is say to all the participants who are here, and thanks for staying all the way till the end of this panel discussion, but if you've got any questions, please put them in the comment box now, because in a few moments we're going to get into the Q&A. But as Phaedon pointed out, Danny raised a really cool question, because you know, a lot of this discussion is talking about competition and noise and expensive advertising. So let's talk to the people who are starting out. Small database, maybe this is their first Black Friday. If I could do a quick round of recommendations, like what are one or two best recommendations that you could share with somebody in that situation so that they could get some sales this Black Friday too?
So please, I don't want to come across as being a bit harsh here, because obviously you could have someone who started a business literally in June at the end of COVID and got their website up and running, and they've only had 5 months to get to Black Friday. But Black Friday is such an iconic, and Cyber Monday is such iconic key dates on the calendar that you should be thinking about them long in advance. So you need to be thinking about your campaigns of what you can do, because as we've seen, email and SMS are very, very powerful mechanisms. And I mean, sometimes it drives me mad, but sometimes, I mean, I get Yuppie Chef, I get Le Creuset, I get, there's one other, every single day I get their newsletter. Maybe those newsletters are too frequent, but they've clearly got it built up a very big database. Now, we aren't all like Yuppie Chef. Obviously, Yuppie Chef is a whole other animal. But I think that you need to be thinking about win-back campaigns, customers who bought from you and haven't bought again for a period of time. So, you know, if someone's bought a box of Lego from us in January and they haven't bought again, why not? And you need to data mine your sales and customer data to look at that and how you can get them back. And I think don't underestimate the value of, I think it was Phaedon who said it, you know, having something to get people to sign up to your newsletter. Invest in your marketing, and if you've got a great product, put it out there and give it away. So we ran a really good campaign to try and increase our database, and we gave away a really big Lego Technic set. So it was worth quite a lot of money. But if you consider what you're paying in Google ads and what you're paying in Facebook ads and whatnot, the 3,000 Rand or 4,000 Rand cost them a set, and we gained 4,000 customers on our database. It's 1 Rand a customer. I probably would have paid that. So I think you need to think carefully about how you can acquire customers pre-Black Friday. And I get that we're only, 5 weeks away now. Use those ads and maybe think about just trying to expand your database massively in the last 5 weeks that you've got.
Yeah, I would say obviously we've got a wide variety of merchants on this call. Some have probably only started out now. I would say the biggest thing that you can do to enhance your platform is to look at your website speed. It should be slower than 3 seconds. That's one thing that we did in COVID. At one point, all sales were frozen due to lockdown, and we channeled all our efforts in our search engine optimization and getting the platform as fast as possible. And today it's well, back then we got it slower than or quicker than 3 seconds, and the sales jumped. It really jumped just on the back of that as well. But obviously you want to give the best possible user interface with the best possible user experience at the quickest website speed. So there's a whole lot of research that you can do on Google on that. What I've always done is there's 3 metrics for me that's vital. It's firstly is the amount of traffic that you drive, the conversion rate, and then your average order value. So the more traffic you generate, the more conversion rate you get, and the bigger you can get your amount of average order value, the more revenue you will generate, and underpinned by all of that is your expenses. So if there's one thing that you need to do is go and do a lot of research around how to get your online conversion rate higher for your niche product. And there's a lot of research around that in terms of building trust, giving the correct value proposition to your customer, having your website speed quite quick, and all of that. So immerse yourself in those 3 metrics. And then I wouldn't be, if you have started out even this year, I wouldn't be too phased about Black Friday. See it as an experiment. Make sure that you won't lose money, but don't see it as a white rabbit that you're gonna, make a lot of money. See it as an experiment and learn from it and take it from there.
Yeah, I think Riaan took the words out of my mouth there. I was going to say, if it's your first Black Friday, then you should probably not expect too much from it. And you don't necessarily have to make your break or your business on that one weekend. I think it's a good chance to experiment with marketing tactics, but I'd be careful about doing anything that might be unprofitable. I would say if you're going to do something to attract deals, I would focus on bundling, particularly if you're small. Like, don't worry about the discounting. Do the stuff that's going to increase your basket size. I think that's a safer way to play early on. And I would think again about what are the other marketing tactics, competitions, social media kind of things that you can do just to use it as an opportunity to attract new customers. But I wouldn't, if it's your first Black Friday and it's the first year, unless you really are running a unicorn business, I wouldn't expect it to be something that's going to make or break your career. So, take your time with it, treat it as a learning opportunity, as Riaan said.
And to go back to the analogy, use the opportunity to do some sparring before you jump in the ring. Because, I mean, there's a question here from Treasure, asking about marketing budget, and that's a big can of worms. We'll certainly attend to the question shortly, but you don't want to, without being educated about what you're doing in your business, say, listen, I'm just going to throw money at this problem, because you're probably going to be wasting it a little bit. You're probably going to want to be doing some research during the course of the year. And if I can touch on this question a little bit, understanding things like impression share and understanding things like your Google AdWords and what you're spending and what value you're getting when you're running out of budget in a regular month. If you're running out of budget by 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., those should already start to teach you what kind of demand you're getting on your Google ad spend, which will hopefully give you some idea when you're getting towards Black Friday. Listen, I'm hoping my sales to increase by X percentage. I spend on average 5,000 Rand a month on Google AdWords. We know Black Friday is going to be a bit of an event. I'm ready to kick my budget up to 7,500, 8,000. And only you can really decide that for your business, understanding where your Google AdWords and whatnot are. Not sure. Very interesting to hear your guys' opinion on that question.
Yeah, I would actually add to that as well. I think that's a very good point. I mean, Google Ads is a platform that works so well around Black Friday because, it's a platform that's designed to actually speak to people who clearly have expressed demand. One of the things that I would say is that versus when I started out, the bidding strategies available on Google Ads have changed so drastically, and now you have all these profit-driven and acquisition-driven bidding strategies. So if you've set up your campaigns to have a return on ad spend target or a cost per acquisition target, you can let that run because at least no matter what you spend, it's not going to be unprofitable, right? If you know that you need to get a 600% return on ad spend and Google Ads allows you to use that as your bidding strategy, then let Google figure out what budget it is that you should be spending that limit that weekend. I wouldn't then put a cap on it.
No,
Sorry, Rob.
Carry on.
Well, I was just going to say that we actually found that in May, right after Minister Patel's speech, all of our campaigns on Google Ads are running on a return on ad spend target. And Google just naturally tripled our spend over that week. And we saw the return that we wanted, on that spend, and it naturally tapered back down afterwards, right? You don't have to be deciding what the amounts are. As long as you know what the return is that you need on that spend, then you can let the machine learning figure the rest out for you.
I was just also going to add, because there is the entrepreneur in me and a little bit of the risk taker, this is also the opportunity to take that risk. Like, you should be expecting better sales. So, on the one hand, don't go and take your 5% marketing budget and blow it to 15% of your turnover. But it's the time to have a bit of a punt and to try and get some return and learn a little bit. But go back to Phaedon's point earlier, it's not necessarily the time to trying to be paying to acquire new customers. You want to be paying to be attracting your customers to spend. Still think that was one of the most important takeaways from earlier.
Agree. I would add to that, from our perspective, I've never added additional budget to our marketing budget for Black Friday specifically. The reason being, you are paying to get customers and then you are giving a discount. So at the end of the day, you're not making money just for that weekend specifically. I think most people starting out always have a question, how much marketing do they need to spend for the month? I would say, you are not brick and mortar anymore. So where you would have had rent, so let's say a typical Bolton shop pays 10,000 Rand per month, you should at least spend 10,000 Rand on your online store. Because the brick and mortar, you are getting traffic, you are getting feet into the store. Now you've built the most amazing product, the most amazing online store. You need to spend to get feet to your online store. If you have a massive business, like a Woolworths and so forth, they would spend close to 300,000, 400,000 Rand on their rent. And we can expect that they are paying the same for advertising as well for their online platform. Just a word of advice on that. I have, for the past 2 years, for the first year, I basically throw all my marketing money into the water because it wasn't set up correctly. At this point, we are focusing on Facebook ads. You should always have a traffic ad that generate traffic, and then always a retargeting ad, which are based on conversions. So a conversion ad will give you the metrics that will say you have spent 10,000 Rand on a conversion ad, but it has brought you in 100,000 Rand. So it's very easy to scale that ad because you see that the money is actually flowing in due to this ad, and you are making money from that ad. And then obviously the foundation is always Google. So you should see it like this, people line their beds these days on their mobile, on Facebook, and to generate traffic from the mobile to your store. So they hear your brand, but then what we've seen on Monday, they will typically go at work and Google your brand. So if your brand doesn't come up on the first page or even the first 3 slots on Google on the first page, then it doesn't help you. So you need to focus on both. And then underpinned on all of that is obviously your email marketing, which there's a whole lot of research and white papers around email marketing for online stores as well.
Riaan, Phaedon, do you guys use agencies for your you do it yourselves?
Not at all. I've literally Googled and learned myself every single aspect of it, and I still see myself that I only know 10% of it, but at least it's in my control. I found that agencies, they give it to an intern, your entire campaign, and they don't have that sense of ownership around your budget and your campaign. And at the end of the day, the online store is, if you don't, the campaigns that you're running is everything. So I don't want to give that to anyone else,
Okay, so here you're going to get a separation here, Warrick. You might get another separation from what we had earlier. We use an agency, okay. I have used, so if you want some information here, again, I'll add some more content for the listeners. We used an agency. I did exactly what one of the guys said. I threw money down the toilet for a long time. I paid Google a lot of money for a 12-month period with a 0 return. Absolute 0. I still have nightmares about it. So my advice would be, because I'm hearing what Riaan's saying and I agree with him entirely. If you're going to try and do this yourself, you need to be extremely educated about what you're doing. And you need to really invest time and understanding. And if you think you don't understand it properly, best you skill up and make sure you do understand it properly. if you're going to be like us and you're going to use an agency, you need to make sure that your agency is on point, because otherwise Riaan's point is 100% true. You'll throw money down the toilet again. So if I can say respectfully, you can throw money down the toilet both ways, doing it yourself and using an agency. Riaan's obviously a very, very clever guy, because he's invested the time during COVID, and he understands, you know, the mechanics behind Google. I'm sure Riaan will say it takes a lot of time to do that. Our agency engages with us weekly, and all those points that Riaan was saying, we make them do. We adjust, we tweak, we change campaigns, we look how they're targeted, we drop campaigns. But again, you have to avoid what Phaedon was saying, where they give it to an intern and you don't get your return. So there isn't a right or wrong answer there, guys. You need to think about what works for you and what your budget is, because obviously the agency comes with a cost. And you don't want to be throwing the money down the agency dark hole, and you also don't want to be throwing it down the Google dark hole by not getting the returns. And your agency should be engaging with you weekly, and you should be looking at what the return on the Google spend is and tie your agency costs into that.
Cool. And also keeping in mind that a lot of people here might just be starting out with tight budgets, as we all are when we're starting out. And that's a wonderful place to be, because there's so much excitement ahead of you. There was a talk by Kevin Tucker, the founder of Price Check and Shopping Feeder. And his insight, which I really liked, was when you're starting out, just put a minimum of 200 Rand at least per day into the different channels. So whatever you're deciding to go with, like just put 200 bucks there, but then monitor your numbers. Be on top of your numbers, so that, as Riaan knew and learned, like if your return is coming in, then you can double down, you can go more into that. Now, a quick tip from my side, for anybody with a tight budget going into Black Friday, maybe it's your first one, some of the lowest hanging fruit you can get is remarketing. And if you think about the dynamics of people right now, like the guys have already said, like this month, their sales have been slightly lower than it has been over the past few months. And my assumption is that consumers are getting ready for Black Friday. They're holding onto their wallet. They know it's coming. So what's happening in this time is that people are still visiting your site. So you'll see your traffic's up, your conversion rate's down. People are researching the products that they want to buy. Maybe I'm going to pop across to Phaedon's website right now and go and look at a 20,000 Rand coffee machine, and then think, well, let me just see what happens to Black Friday. I'm going to hop on his mailing list, see what happens. So in that event, if that's what customers are doing, then get them to get cookied by your website. And then during Black Friday, you can remarket to them and show them your deals. So if people are on your mailing list or not, they're getting exposure to your deals. So for anybody on a very tight budget, that's some of the lowest hanging fruit you can do. All right, guys, but we do have to wrap this conversation up eventually. I think we could talk all day. So let's take one last question out of the chat, which is about returns. So in America, this hasn't really clocked onto South Africa yet, but in America, they call it, after Black Friday weekend, they call it Returns Thursday, because the next week, Thursday, is when the bulk of returns happen, more than any other time of the year. So have you guys thought about different ways to handle a higher amount of returns, and what are your approaches to that?
Who wants to go first?
So I can just give you our policy currently, and it's also from what I've researched in the States, is you need a selling point. And for us, we've got a no mess, no fuss return policy. Obviously, we have a smaller price point than Phaedon and possibly Robert on your side as well. So for us, obviously rings, nobody will buy a ring online if they know it's not going to fit and they can't return it. So we've got a return policy where we say you only need to pay for the shipping back to us, which is, we round it off to, I think, about 115 Rand. And then if the customer is not happy with the product at all, we do a full refund, and we promise that without any issues. So that just gives the consumer a little bit of comfort. We have seen that our refunds is probably less than 1% of our overall sales per month. So it's really insignificant to give that peace of mind to your consumer that you'll do a refund and they can have that peace of mind.
Yeah, same position here. I mean, we probably are sitting on about a 1% return rate. And I have to admit, historically, I've not seen returns around Black Friday be a problem for us. I suppose it depends what kind of deals you're running. But I don't think that we've ever seen a massive uptick in returns around Black Friday. So I would definitely encourage people to adopt the same returns policy and be very open and upfront about the fact that people can return products, because it is a huge trust point, as Riaan was saying. Our policy is that if something's unused up until 30 days, they can return it, no questions asked. If there's a manufacturer fault, we extend that deadline longer. And I think that unfortunately that's kind of, it's a hygiene factor in this day and age. If you don't allow people to return or exchange products, they're not likely going to shop with you.
Yeah, I agree with Phaedon. I don't recall us having major issues with returns last year. If anything, I think what we are going to battle with, which we saw after lockdown, is the couriers battling with logistics. Parcels getting lost and incorrect parcels delivered to wrong homes. And I think that going back to one of the very first points that Riaan made, and I've reiterated, is communication is key. So I think that people just need to understand that not just from our businesses, but from the couriers' businesses, the logistics are taking a little bit longer at the moment. They need to be patient. So I think the change that I would make is not actually to our returns policy, because our returns policy is the same as the other guys have said. Welcome to return if you don't want the product. I think that's only fair. But I think that where I would adapt is making sure you have workflows and business processes in place to improve your communication. Be it more emails, be it someone designated to a telephone or designated to a mailbox. Your communication is very important.
Agreed.
Cool beans. Nice. So one of the common threads that I'm picking up throughout this entire conversation is around communication, around managing customer expectations. That's always such a key point when it comes to selling online, especially around deliveries. And deliveries I could talk about, we could do a whole nother panel discussion on that. But really, like, you could do everything right. You know, the website could be amazing. You do all of your Black Friday deals right, and you get the sale, and then you send it out the door with the courier. And if the courier drivers or delivery company just messes it up, it reflects badly on you. But the best way to deal with that is through proactive communication. Africa has really cool automatic notifications that go out. So if you're not using them already, you should be. And also, let me just say, like, thanks so much to the guys who've taken the time to come and share with us today. You know, if you do want to go and look at their Black Friday deals, or go and look at some amazing websites for inspiration, the websites to look at from Riaan is orbitrings.co.za, from Phaedon is capecoffeebeans.co.za, and Robert's website is greatyellowbrick.co.za. And of course, Insaka is where I'm from. So let me hand over back to Danny and just say once again, thank you to the panelists for sharing your insights and your knowledge. And of course, thank you to Africa and to Shopify for making this event happen. Thanks very much. Over to you, Danny.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you really to the four of you, Warrick, Phaedon, Robert, and Riaan. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you guys must be unbelievably busy. So thank you very much. I learned a ton, and it's great actually, because we've been getting so many phone calls in from new merchants who ask us all of these questions, and it really helps, you know, giving them advice from people who've been there and who know what works, you know, what doesn't work. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of the participants for sitting with us and learning all of these things. Yeah, I think we can call it a day, and I will hopefully see some of you at 2 o'clock for the next talk.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Everyone have a good day.
Cheers, bye.